Are you making one of these top 5 mistakes? I hope not. Well, hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of what I'm calling Tuesday Top 5. Now you're probably asking, what is Tuesday Top 5? Well, Tuesday Top 5 is this thing where I'm gonna take a topic, kind of a popular topic that has to do with storytelling or digital marketing or something like that. And I'm gonna break it down into this top 5 format. And it can be the top 5, worst things, top 5 pieces of gear, top 5 best techniques. I'm gonna break it down in this format that's really easy to digest in 5 bullet points. So today's the first episode and we're breaking down the top 5 digital storytelling mistakes that you're probably making. And they're very common. I see a lot of people making these same mistakes over and over, whether it's clients that work with or content creators. Over the years, I've kind of seen a pattern in the way that people think about the way they market themselves through digital storytelling. And I've ranked these from kind of the least to the worst offense. So you want to stick around to like number 1 so you can find out what I think is the biggest mistake that people are making. So let's get right into it. Now, number 5 is making a perfect video rather than a human video. Now, I see people make this mistake a lot because I think people have heard this phrase that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and then they go on and think that, well, a video must be worth 1,000,000. And then they try to cram all this information and fit a lot of things into a video that really should have one purpose. When we do these things with video, we miss the biggest advantage that video has, and we don't leverage it. And that's that video conveys emotion and makes a human connection. Now, I also see this play out with video producers and content creators. So they create a very technically beautiful piece, something that looks really cool. Myself, I'm very guilty of the cool time-lapse video or the cool B-roll or the cool drone video. But none of those things are things that connect with people on an emotional level. These things all kind of exist to feed like our egos of creating something that looks great or that we think is really cool, but it doesn't really do anything for the viewer. Now, whenever you're creating a video, you should ask a couple questions. Number 1, who would watch this? Number 2, why would they watch it? Now, if you can't answer those questions, then I wouldn't even bother to ask the third question. So the third question is, should this video exist? If you're not sure, you may be wasting your time creating something that no one will ever end up watching. Now, the number 4 mistake that I see people make is that they don't have an origin story. When you're doing storytelling, there's kind of what I like to call 3 arcs. So there's like this big overarching arc. This is your origin story. This is why you exist. And then there's kind of the smaller arc, and this is the problem you're solving right now. And then there's this individual one, and this is like the video that I'm making right now, this piece of content. These arcs all kind of fit into each other. So like this individual video should fit into like this year's problem you're solving, which should fit into why you exist. And this is important because if a customer, a consumer, a person is confused about your origin story, like they don't know why you exist, then they're probably not gonna buy from you. Now, the number 3 mistake is that you don't have a clear call to action. Now, this doesn't mean that every single video needs to sell something. What it does mean is that you need to know the purpose for every piece of content you're creating. Why does this piece of content exist? It may be, I want someone to go to this website, click this link, download this, but it may also mean I want the viewer to watch this and feel this way. Your call to action is really your purpose for this single video. And if you can't answer what's the purpose for this video, then maybe you shouldn't make it. Now, the number 2 mistake that people make in digital storytelling is they forget how people actually make decisions. That as humans, we make decisions emotionally, and then logically, we create the reasons to back up or justify the decision that we already made. So I'm gonna name a couple brands and you can see clearly like how this works in society today. So for one, think about Apple. So generally they create products that are more expensive than the competition, and on paper, the specs may not be as good as what competitors are offering, but people buy into those brands because what they represent. They connect to their why and they make an emotional connection to those brands. So why would I want a MacBook Pro over, say, a Microsoft Surface or whatever computer may be like the most powerful computer for video editing? It's because they've created an emotional connection through their brand storytelling. Now, another example of this would be a brand like Harley Davidson. See, Harley Davidson has created motorcycles for maybe since like the 1920s or 30s that have basically had the same technology. You could say that they are technically inferior to the competition, but people have bought into the emotional story that they've told to the point where that sound, the sound that a Harley makes, can evoke like a response from somebody. You see, if people made buying decisions rationally, then the best product plus price plus advertising plus distribution would win every time. But it doesn't, because we don't make decisions that way. And now that brings me to the number one biggest problem I see in digital storytelling. And this is a mistake that everybody makes, because it's really tough not to make this mistake. And the number one mistake is making yourself the hero of the story. See, the most important part of storytelling is that the viewer can see themselves in the story. Now, most of us aren't making Hollywood movies to entertain people, but there's a familiar format that's used in almost every blockbuster Hollywood movie, and that's the hero's journey. And the hero's journey structure is like this. There's a character who's typically the hero, and there's something that they want, but they have a problem, and that problem is getting in the way of what they want. But they meet a guide who gives them a plan, calls them to action, and leads them to success. This is kind of an oversimplified format, but the problem that we as storytellers, and especially in the marketing world, is that we always want to be the hero of the story. And the problem is we're not the hero, we're the guide in the story. The customer or the viewer is always the hero. The point is that the person you're telling the story to has to be able to see themselves in the story and be the hero of their own story. So those are the top 5 mistakes that I see people making in digital storytelling. Now I'm curious, do any of those mistakes resonate with you? What's the biggest mistake that you've seen yourself make? Now, when I was making this list, I actually had so much fun making it that I have 5 more. So if you want to join me every Tuesday with a new top 5 list, then subscribe. I'm going to be here every Tuesday bringing you great content in that 5 bullet point format. Thanks for watching.